All right, welcome to Strictly Ball Business, episode 38. Today, we are coming back after like a 2-week hiatus, but not because we didn't want to be here. I had some technical issues last week. My mic just wasn't working, but got it figured out. And now we're ready to talk about some teams that bowed out from the first round. Where are they going to go now? Some of the players on those teams, what does that look like? And we'll give a little bit of a preview for the teams that are still in it. First of all, we're talking about D'Angelo Russell trades. We're talking about Utah Jazz trades, upcoming free agents. Where could Levine land? And then the top 3 players that Luka could play next season. Obviously, he's having a great postseason, but what could he add to that? And maybe we'll add some more nuggets from around the league on top of that. But first off, we're talking D'Angelo Russell, and he had a disappointing, to say the least, postseason here in one series against the Memphis Grizzlies. He shot under 35%. What it ended up being like 32 maybe. I don't got the numbers from me. I know you do, but he was downright terrible compared to a regular season where I wouldn't say he was even like that efficient in the regular season. It was really just his good defense that made up for his improvement this year. But even in the postseason, like, it's hard to say what he does over Patrick Beverley and Jordan McLaughlin that could have gave him any minutes in the postseason, because he was just downright not even as good of a defender as those guys. He wasn't passing well. He wasn't getting open looks, and he was taking terrible shots. So it kind of leaves you to wonder, what do you do with this guy when he's looking for an extension, first of all, and probably is going to be audacious enough to ask for a maximum contract extension for himself, which is, I mean, at this point, crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. I think he struggled not being a scoring option anymore, and I think that was huge. I think when the best version of D'Angelo we saw was on the Nets, and he was the number one scoring option then. But that's not that sustainable for a championship, and that's mainly what we saw, is he just couldn't get into that rhythm that he normally was able to get into. And I mean, even during the regular season, we saw him struggle. But like you said, during the regular season, he had great team defense and elite playmaking that really pushed the team to where it needed to be. But we saw that crumble in the playoffs. So I personally think it's too soon to trade him. I do think there's some other things you can try. I do put a lot of blame on Cat, even though Cat offensively played really well for a lot of the games. And it seemed that, like, when he didn't, DLO didn't. However, his leadership, it was Cat's lack of leadership, or how he led, that I saw troubles with. And when I think he was kind of the leading charge of, once they started blowing leads, he just kind of falls apart emotionally every time. Now, we've seen this in the Timberwolves for years, and I finally just attributed it to has to be Cat. Everyone looks for, he portrays himself as the best player on the team. I don't think he is anymore. So when he puts out, that's his attitude. It's infectious. It really hits every other team, and even you got spark plugs like Pat Bev and Anthony Edwards who just kind of fall off because of it. So I do think it might be a new time for Cat rather than D'Lo. However, we'll see how it goes. But I do have 3 trades that could help, certainly help out this team. Some of them I really like, and I look at them and I'm like, that makes them a top 4 seed if they make this trade, if they're able to pull it off. But let me jump into them right now. So the first one I have, it's expected. I know we talk about this all the time. It's with the Pacers. So it's giving up D'Angelo Russell, Jalen Noel, Bolmero, and a top 3 2023 first-round pick. And this is for Miles Turner and Malcolm Brogdon. It's probably a lot. Timberwolves probably have to add either another pick or a little more into that. But I think that's instantly. That's the trade where I look at them. I'm like, all right, that's perfect fits on both ends. You get a composed playmaker at the point guard. Anthony Edwards can still stay at the 2 or 3 with Pat, and that leaves Pat Bev still can play the 2 actually, and Anthony Edwards at the 3. You get Miles Turner holding down the center on the defensive end, which is what he does great. And Cat finally does not have to be that defensive center.
Yeah, I mean, that would be fantastic to round out the Timberwolves starting five because it obviously solidifies two positions for them. You get a solid defender at the point, get a great defender at the center. You make Cat be that power forward, which he's played a lot more like this year anyways. I think it makes a lot more sense. The play style of Brogdon, he's a lot smarter player traditionally than D'Lo is. He's not going to take those isolated threes as often. So I think in general, that would make a lot more sense. Open things up for Edwards a bit more in year 3. And I think with Towns, he's not going anywhere. If you're going to give that guy an extension as long as he's willing to sign one as soon as possible. That's basically how I see it. Because at this point, you're hoping he's going to be just a really great second option to Anthony Edwards as Edwards ascends into stardom.
Yeah. And I think for the Pacers, you get a guy like D'Angelo, who I think he's more likely, he can fit better next to Halliburton better than Brogdon can, because Brogdon is, I see him just like, his biggest value is he's an uber smart player, and that's kind of what got him his contract and everything. And obviously he can score, but I think that's just a product of how smart he is playing, and how collected and selective, more selective of his shot tendency and everything. You saw it on the Bucks, and that's why they called him the president and everything. And I do think it's the Timberwolves that are lacking in this trade. I mean, in the fact where like it'd be the Pacers that say no to this trade. I think the Timberwolves would jump on this every second. They might want Jalen.
I think for sure it's the Pacers would be asking for a lot if they're giving up both those guys.
Oh yeah, I think Jaden McDaniels might have to be thrown into this instead of Bolmero, or so they get Bolmero, McDaniels, Noel, and Russell in the top 3.
Yeah, I think that's too much. I don't think that would make sense, because Jaden McDaniels is a really important piece for this team moving forward. To give him up, I think you would not do that in this trade.
And it would really slow down their offense, which has kind of been, they were the fastest pace in the league. So it's kind of
that's by design.
The bread and butter. So it kind of would
turnovers
change
and fast pace. They want to keep that going for sure.
So they'd have to institute a whole new system if they got these two players. But let's move on.
Yeah, I don't see them instituting a new system. I just do not see that happening. So if that's the case, maybe this isn't a trade that makes sense for them.
Right. So I look at so here's another trade. This one kind of keeps with the pace. It's more or less just a position switch up, moving the talent away from, if you just want to move away from D'Lo. So it's D'Lo and a 2024 lottery protected first round pick for John Collins and Jalen Johnson. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know why the Hawks would do that necessarily, but if they'd be willing to do it, I'd love it. I wanted to get John Collins here last season in Minnesota. I think that would be a great fit. His run and gun style in the transition offense for this team would be fantastic. I think he would really benefit playing next to Patrick Beverley. I think their energies would really go well together. Yeah. And overall, I think he would put together a lot more solid minutes at the 4 than we're used to seeing. So that would be a really good get for them.
Yeah, I like his energy. It certainly doesn't help their defense any. And it does create a hole at point guard where you expect maybe Malik Beasley gets out. Kind of might hurt.
Patrick Beverley probably becomes your starter.
Yeah. But then you're still
draft a guy
leaning on Anthony Edwards to be that major playmaker then, and that which he's shown that he's.
Yeah, you need a little bit more. Maybe bring Ricky Rubio back somehow.
And you're kind of hoping Jalen Johnson does. Actually, the Hawks. I think the Hawks would be interested. They have actually said that they're more interested in getting a guard next to Trey that can. So Trey, because Trey is the highest usage rating.
Yeah,
which, granted. So
no, they definitely need a guard, but I don't know if D'Lo is that guy. I mean, I picture like a Zach Levine would look really good in Atlanta, or maybe a Jalen Brunson.
I'm not sure about Jalen Brunson rather as a fit, but because Jalen needs the ball, and I think D'Lo has at times this year has shown he doesn't need the ball, but at the same time, he can't be the guy to. Obviously, what we saw in this playoffs, he's not the guy that can make the elite playmaking decision. So, I think. I think
I think D'Lo will accept whatever role he gets next season. He's going to ultimately be looking to get an extension. I think that's going to be his priority, as it should. Obviously, makes sense to want to go for that. He'll be going to the last year of his contract next season. So, Timberwolves have to make a choice. Do they want to extend him or do they want to trade him? Because running him back out there for another year and then letting him walk in free agency doesn't seem like a great decision.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. I honestly, the way the Timberwolves are, I see them throwing them that extension. But let's take a look at this last trade.
I do too. It's hard to get talent here.
Yeah, you got to pay that small market tax. So this last one, this isn't a blockbuster or anything. It's more or less they're like, we don't want D'Lo anymore. But it does. I do like the direction it moves in, where it's like we want vets and we want culture. So this one is with the Rockets. So it's D'Lo, Jalen Noel, and a second-round pick for Eric Gordon taking on that contract, but you get Christian Wood with him. So that's a great. He's showed he's still effective. He's still a great veteran to have, Eric Gordon. He's a nice shooter that they really needed, a consistent guy who can make offense like that, especially at the guard position. And then you get a guy like Christian Wood, who's a great defensive player. He's all around great forward center that would be super nice next to Cat, whether not either one could play the forward or the center, depending upon your matchup. So it adds that flexibility and gets another quality big in there.
Yeah, that could certainly work. I think Christian Wood is a fine player. Obviously still very young, has a lot of room to grow, and I think he needs to be in a winning environment. If he joins the Timberwolves, they're still probably going to make the playoffs next year, or at least have a good shot at it. So being in that atmosphere, I think will help him out. Another team you can look out for is maybe D'Angelo Russell has a reunion in Brooklyn and he gets traded for Ben Simmons, as Brooklyn maybe is already tired of Ben Simmons and Minnesota still wants Ben Simmons, and they look to just make that happen.
Yeah.
The NBA is full of zany stories all the time. That would just put another bow on top of this weird saga.
Yeah, it would. And I'd be down for that. I'm like, listen, everyone hates Ben. I'm like, Ben, you come here, you'll be a fucking hero. We'll love you. That's all. Yeah. Timberwolves always want somebody to play defense. Look, Pat Beverly is now immortalized in the Timberwolves franchise because he played really good team defense and changed.
We like guys who work hard. Like guys who try hard. We're hoping with Ben Simmons is like this back injury is nothing crazy serious, but I mean, he did get surgery on it. So, I mean, back surgery at his age is no joke. Like, he hasn't played basketball all season, and now he's got back surgery going to next season. It's kind of hard to expect or to know what to expect out of Ben Simmons next year, and such a polarizing figure.
And especially the way he is. The Nets want to win a championship now, so I think they're going to be more willing to move him than people think. But
yeah, absolutely, I think so too. But yeah, if you want to move on from that, we can go into Utah Jazz trades and talk a little bit about what's gonna have to happen for these guys to make the next step next season. Last year they were the 1 seed, bounced in the first round. This season they were the 4 seed, bounced in the first round. Obviously, we all know something is going to happen between either Gobert or Donovan Mitchell. That's kind of just come to a boiling point here. The two of them clearly don't really care for each other, or at least Donovan Mitchell wants out of Utah clearly and doesn't like Rudy Gobert. So what's the answer here? Who gets traded? Which one do you build around? I ask you, expert Dalton.
Honestly, it's tough. So I feel like if I was the Jazz executive and I was looking at this, if I had to make the decision, it would be to trade Donovan Mitchell. I think they're equal. I think they're just as good because Rudy Gobert does limit your offense, but he creates an entire defensive system. He's that good of a defensive player. Donovan Mitchell, superstar offensive player, but he's not as good on offense as Rudy is on defense. Granted, Donovan Mitchell is a great two-way guard, so that's really. But I see more as Rudy. I feel like would stay in Utah his whole career, and I think that's something Utah has to value. I feel like even if
Absolutely.
they trade away Rudy Gobert, I can still see Donovan Mitchell wanting out in 4 years. So
They need
that's
to
why
consider that.
and they can capitalize on him now, which I can jump in my first trade while we're still after we're coming off the Timberwolves. It's actually a Timberwolves trade, and I think this could work, and I think it would be great for the Timberwolves as well. So D'Angelo Russell, Jaden McDaniels, Bolmero, second round and 2 second-round picks for Donovan Mitchell Do you think the Utah Jazz would take that in?
I think maybe they'd want a little bit more possibly, but DLO and Jaden McDaniels would be a pretty good haul for him. So honestly, that should be enough. I think they'd be willing to pull the trigger on that because you bring in a guy who can replace your Bogdanovich minutes when he's off the team in a year or two, and also is young and growing and just becoming better each year. And then you could also have your Mike Conley replacement too. So kind of hit 2 birds with 1 stone there for Utah. You get to continue competing, probably still stay in that middle of the top echelon of the West teams. I would imagine even with this move. So I don't see why not.
Yeah, I think it spreads out the offense a little more. I do think if they did this, I'd like to think Jaden McDaniels would effectively move Royce O'Neal out of the lineup, and Jaden would become your power forward. Bogdanovich moved to the 3, which he played for the Pacers, and obviously he was well, I think. And both can shoot the ball. I think D'Lo would take over the shooting guard role, or like right next to Conley. I think it doesn't make them any better, but at the same time, you get guys who don't want to leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you kick the can down the road. You sign D'Angelo Russell to an extension. He doesn't know. He doesn't have any bad ties to Utah yet, so you got good feelings there. You've got Jaden McDaniels, make him feel good about just trading for him and giving him a big role on the team. So yeah, you got guys that want to be there, and you trade away Donovan Mitchell, who wants a fresh start, clearly.
Yeah, and I think honestly, I just think about the pairing on the wing with Donovan Mitchell and Anthony Edwards. Oh my God, that would be crazy. The energy.
I mean, those guys are basically twins. So
with Pat Bev, I feel like that would be the most interesting 1 through 3 in the league. And I'm not saying the best. I'm saying the most interesting. These guys would be crazy.
Really polarizing. Yeah, I would be. Yeah, I would be elated to see that. That would be really crazy.
That would be insane. But so that's best hope, and that's what I think. I tried to mix them both together, but I got some one more Donovan Mitchell trade here, and this one might be a little bit of stress. So it's to the Hornets. So Donovan Mitchell given up by the Jazz, but the Hornets give up Terry Rozier, PJ Washington, James Bouknight, top 5, 24 protected first round, and a top 10, 26 protected first round. So it kind of moves into more of a reload, is how I'd look at it. You get a solid player in Terry Rozier. Obviously, he's not as good as Donovan Mitchell. You get some young talent in Bouknight and PJ Washington and 2 first-round picks.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to look like a reload pretty much no matter where they trade one of these guys to, just because the chances they get the best player in the trade back is not going to happen, right? Yeah. They're going to get some younger guy who maybe ends up being better in a couple of years. But yeah, I think this would make a lot of sense for them. You get a really solid scorer in Terry Rozier, really just a step off from Donovan Mitchell in terms of, stardom or whatever you want to call it. But like in terms of talent, he's not really that far off. Like you compare the two side by side, how different are they? Yeah,
it just decisions and really, I'd say their obviously Donovan Mitchell's ceiling's a lot higher, but you also get guys. Look, I think PJ Washington could certainly play next to Rudy Gobert. I think that would be great. Bouknight gets more time to shine. I think he'll actually get rotation. Plus, you get 2 first-round picks out of it. I think that's a great package to get back for him. And I think on the Hornets side, you get that guy next to LaMelo. You say, hey, LaMelo, here's another superstar. There you go. And I
definitely think the Hornets are looking to bring in a guy like that this offseason.
Oh, definitely. And I think this would surprise a lot of the NBA because you rarely see small market to small market trades like this. And I think Rozier would at least make the Jazz competitive in the fact of they could make the play-in still. especially whomever they draft and how well Bouknight does. And PJ Washington's a solid player. So
yeah, I think they would still have a good team in Utah no matter what. Long as they don't fire Quinn Snyder. I think that would be idiotic.
Yeah, Quinn Snyder and Rudy Gobert certainly are the cornerstone of this team. I really think that. I think I've loved Donovan Mitchell. It takes nothing away from Donovan Mitchell. I just think maybe his fit in the end wasn't as good. I think you really need an elite playmaker like a LaMelo or whomever else we've talked about.
I don't think Donovan Mitchell like it's working out in terms of this team build. Like he's kind of the superstar, got to carry the offense all the time, and he has no passing ability. And it's like, we need either another guy who is alongside him that can do just that as much, like what we have in Boston, or we're gonna have to get somebody who can actually play make, because it's just not gonna work out long term if Mitchell can't create for others.
Yeah, and I don't think they're getting off Mike Conley trade. So.
Yeah, Mike Conley was like kind of the best thing they could bring in there for a while. So they dealt with that, and they're like, well, let's double down that. Hope it works out. But he's just deteriorating. He's old. He's still got good talent here and there, but he's really mailed in some bad games this season when he used to be considered Mr. Consistent, and he used to never get injured. Now he's injured a lot, obviously just because he's getting old. And that's what happens to our stars from our youth, Yeah. Now we're growing up, we're seeing these guys die in the leg injuries and retiring off.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's tough to see, but I think I valued his career. I don't think the NBA actually did, because they're never going to, I guess he may never get that all-star.
I mean, everybody knows he was great. He just didn't get the all-star recognitions, but he was a very good player, and he'll get forgotten over time by most, but he's still part of that infamous or that famous grit and grind, group of players with Zebo and Marcus Gasol. Like everybody will remember that group of guys, and he was part of that. So he'll be remembered by association.
Yeah, which is good. But so this last trade is my Rudy Gobert one, and honestly, this is more of a shakeup for both teams. For one of them, it's not as crazy of a shakeup. The other it is. So it's with the Grizzlies. So the Grizzlies actually aren't shaking up too much. They're just, I feel like it would help them out. And then, the Grizzlies are getting Rudy Gobert and Jared Butler just for contract fit for Jared. And the Jazz get Steven Adams, Dylan Brooks, DeAnthony Melton, and a first round and a top 10 top 10 2023 protected first round pick.
I don't know if it's enough for the Jazz. I mean,
so I don't know. I don't think if the Jazz want to trade Rudy Gobert, I don't think they're nearly going to get enough as if they traded Donovan Mitchell. I don't think other teams understand the value, and I think I don't think other teams, they know they can buy lower on Rudy Gobert because he's a big man, because of his contract. I think he's not. I think
everybody
old.
knows he's won 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards and should have won a 4th, and I think that matters. I think certainly there's 30 NBA teams, and if he's on one of them, so there'd be 29 other teams potentially. You just need one other team that's willing to give up a bunch. I bet you could get a bidding war going between a few of them, because a lot of teams are in horrible shape defensively and could look at Rudy Gobert and say, hey, he could literally bring us from garbage to at least average, and that would just ascend everyone around us even further.
Yeah, I'm confident if you put Rudy Gobert on your team, you'll make the play-in at the very least. Get you out of mediocrity. I don't know. So, but with his fit with the Grizzlies, I think it would be great. You clear up with Dylan Brooks gone. You clear up a lot more space, a lot more possessions for Desmond Bane. I think Ja would love having a guy like Rudy Gobert. I mean, you can make an argument it might be a little redundant with Jaren Jackson Jr., or you could say it's going to make their paint elite. Unbeatable.
They
not get in that paint.
I think it would just be unbeatable. I mean, him and Jaren Jackson, like no one would be able to drive into the paint on those guys.
Oh yeah, and I think it would totally fit. Like, Jaren Jackson shoots a lot of. He's not an efficient 3-point shooter, but he can spread the floor. I think everyone else on that floor can shoot, and that's proven. That's what Rudy needs, and I think it would certainly help. It may clog the paint on offense a little bit for Ja, but
That's true.
I think there's certainly other things you can do that would work out. I have faith in Taylor Jenkins and his offensive scheme.
Yeah, I feel like with that type of talent, you just find a way.
Yeah, and on the Jazz side, I mean, you get a first round pick, you get two solid players. I mean, Adams is a solid center. He's shown that this year that he's like, oh, I'm still a legit center. And you get a guy like Dylan Brooks, give him more space, be like, hey man, play next to Donovan Mitchell, do something. I don't know. They'll have to figure out their center, but honestly, centers are a lot easier to find than valuable wings like Dylan Brooks. Not obviously at the level of Rudy Gobert, but if they're like, we're keeping with Donovan Mitchell, this is certainly an option, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if I was the Jazz and trading with the Grizzlies, I'd be gunning for Desmond Bane, and I'd probably hope I can get someone comparable from another team if they're not willing to give him up.
Yeah. No, I mean, certainly. There's a ton of Rudy Gobert trades. I just saw this one. I think it was relevant because the Jazz.
Yeah.
And I think I wanted.
No, I hear you. I'm just egging you on.
Grizzlies.
Let's hear the next trade.
No, that's all the Jazz trades I have.
Oh, those are all of them. All right. Well, cool. Well, that's the Utah Jazz. Guys, we're gonna see who are they gonna end up trading. Gotta assume it's either Rudy or it's gonna be Donovan Mitchell. I mean, it's got to be. One of those guys is gone this offseason. So I think it's gonna be fireworks. I love the NBA, but I swear to God, I love the NBA offseason. Like it's like a soap opera for men. I gotta admit, it's exactly what it is. All the juicy storylines. I mean, Kyrie, who's already in the offseason today, he was streaming, playing video games, and he said, oh, like somebody egged him on about Boston fans. He said, oh, freaking Kyrie, come back to Cleveland. Like, he started mocking fans. He's like, Kyrie, come back to Cleveland. Oh, Boston, we hate you. Whatever. He's like, all cockroaches. He called the fans cockroaches. And it's like already just adding gasoline to the fire. I love it. What we're going to do is dig further into the offseason. We're not quite there yet. Obviously, we're deep in the playoffs, but we have upcoming free agents. A few of them even are already in their negotiating phases. You got to assume at this point, even though it's not legal yet, guarantee phone calls are being made. So we're going to talk about our top free agents, where we think they could land, and why it makes sense for them to go there. So first of all, Dalton, who's your top free agent?
This is a very limited class, and for argument's sake, it's going to be Levine, obviously. So Levine's the top free agent, but he's miles ahead of everyone else. So I concentrated more on like the role players and guys like that. I think the top outside of Levine is TJ Warren. I think he can fit on a lot of teams. And I think some of the teams that would love to have him. He's kind of a Swiss Army. He's a wing that any team would need, scoring guy, much like a Tobias Harris, but you can get him for cheaper than Tobias Harris.
Yeah.
So, defense, not as much. He's not going to help you there, but there's teams that need offense. I think teams like the Mavs, I think the Jazz are going to be interested in him. I think the Cavaliers, the Hornets, and the Knicks. I feel like, and the Lakers, I feel like could maybe figure out a sign and trade with the Pacers, see for something. I don't know. Maybe we'll see. But I think the Knicks are more likely to give him a massive contract than anyone else.
Yeah, that's a possibility if they lose out on other guys like most years.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I feel like they're just gonna be like, whatever, we just need something. Just TJ, please come.
Yeah, it's possible. I think the Knicks certainly will go after some type of scorer. They went and got Evan Fournier this last offseason. That hasn't really worked out in the one season, so we'll see where it goes moving forward, but they gave him a bag. Don't know who they're going to give a bag to this time. Maybe it's Jalen Brunson. That's kind of my top unrestricted free agent. There's a lot of good restricted free agents, guys with player options I want to talk about as well. But Jalen Brunson, I mean, that's a guy who I think the Knicks could go after, and maybe they sign both him and TJ Warren, get a little bit of a combo going, and get some magic.
Yeah, that'd be cool. We did a whole video on Jalen Brunson. looking at landing spots, give that a look. I personally think it was great.
We did talk a lot about Jalen Brunson. He is a polarizing guy.
Oh yeah. I also think one of the other big free agents is going to be Yusuf Nurkic. I don't think he's going to be a trailblazer. I think it's worth saying like the Wolves could use him. I think the Mavs obviously.
Yeah, I think he'd be great on anybody that can use rebounding help, like the Wolves. I think he would be great there. I don't know, maybe
Mavs and Nets is all the other two teams I have listed.
Nets makes sense. Philadelphia makes sense.
Oh yeah, because they have to fill that Andre Drummond role, and that they're definitely hurting for depth.
Yeah, they need a guy. They definitely, I think, wish they did not trade away Drummond.
Yeah, it was more of a rental now. Drummond is a free agent, so we'll see how well he does. I think he could go to places. I think maybe end up at the Hornets, which I thought he was going to end up in originally too. So that'll be interesting. Another one. I know we're skipping through these a little fast, he's made a name for himself. Like everyone counted him out. Is Oladipo's been playing great in the playoffs, and he's a unrestricted free agent. I think he can certainly go someplace.
Yeah, nice to see him come back. I think maybe Miami gives him a contract to stick around. Miami is where he did his rehab. I think he might be originally from there. I think he likes living there. So watch for him to try and stay there. Maybe he tries to recuperate some of that lost money from those, past deals he blundered. But we'll see. It's interesting to understand what certain guys' motives are. Usually money is the top driving factor, but most of these guys can get top dollar wherever they want to go too.
Oh yeah, always. What do you think? I think Oladipo would I think he could fit nice with the 76ers, honestly, too. Like we were talking about that. I think Danny Green's getting older, he's showing his age, and I think the 76ers would love to have Oladipo. I think they're gonna put in a bid for him, I think he could play next to James Harden. I think a lot of places, depending upon his price tag. Celtics. Yeah, I don't know how much flexibility they have with their cap situation, but they would like to have him. I
don't know how expensive he's going to be. I don't know if it's going to matter.
I think it's worth. The Pelicans are into a guy who can make offense and play defense. His defense still has some work to come back from, but at least his offense is there.
Yeah.
To get into some vets, I think are worth having is Ibaka's an unrestricted free agent. I think he could make a return. My most likely place for Ibaka is him returning to the Raptors. I think they could use some size. I think he would be a nice center for them. Obviously, the Mavs are they need everything. So Mavs are there again. Also the Hornets. I would like to see.
The Mavericks are likely.
Oh yeah, they want a center, especially one that can spread the floor like Ibaka. And I think the Hornets would love to see a guy, a big defensive guy who can stretch the floor. For Luka, I think that would be very valuable for them too.
I think you said the Hornets with Luka. You just get your teams there. But either the Hornets or the Mavericks. You're right. Either way, maybe even the Sacramento Kings. I think the Kings want some more veteran presence. Defense. I think they want to kind of replace those minutes that they're currently giving to who's their current Rashawn Holmes. I think they want to not that you would give all of that to Serge Ibaka, but
enough,
maybe give a few of them to him.
Certainly. And it didn't work out in Orlando, him playing next to another center, but you could experiment, see how well he does it, because Sabonis isn't a shot block, he's not a defensive paint. But so if he's going to play the center, maybe it's worth getting a guy like Ibaka. Be maybe we can throw him in there, build some lineups.
Ibaka would just play your veteran defensive role. He would be able to hit some threes for you. You need that type of player on your team. So I think that would make a lot of sense. I don't know if Mike Brown's got any familiarity with him, but I just want to say I think that's a smart hire by the Sacramento Kings. A guy who has been laughed at before in his career for being fired a couple times, but he's worked his way back. His reputation is strong, and he works really well with young players. And I think maybe this could be the guy to right the ship. Definitely is a smarter hire than Mark Jackson would have been.
Yeah, definitely. One guy I talk about a lot is Rocco, Robert Covington. I think
He signed an extension.
Oh, did he? Oh,
yes,
shit.
he's staying with Clippers.
Which just makes sense because in my quotations for teams that would like to have him, I put everyone. So
yeah, he re-signed 2 years, $24 million extension.
Okay. Also, funny enough, I put Clippers should look to resign next to that as a note. So I did make these notes last week. So.
No worries. Hey, it's okay, man. I didn't make them. No, just kidding. So number whatever free agent guy that I want to talk about, Tyus Jones, former Minnesota Timberwolf, former Minnesota native. He got wrongfully booed at the games this year just because we were in the playoffs against the Grizzlies, and it's like, come on, Minnesota fans, be better than that.
I mean, you have to. It's a playoff game.
But they're booing him extra than anyone else just because he used to be on the team. It's like, that's stupid, in my opinion.
Got traded too. No, he just didn't get. We didn't
sign him. We chose not to re-sign him because he went and got a better deal, and he proved us wrong that we should have probably just kept him. Not that we've done poorly at the point guard position, but he might be a better option than D'Angelo Russell at this point.
Well, maybe a little bit. Oh yeah. The way with the fresh taste in the mouth. Yeah. I think there's a lot of places he could end up. I think the Clippers would like to have him if they can afford a. Well, he'd probably get a lower mid-level contract. Is what
I think Lakers would be
ecstatic,
happy to grab him. Maybe.
76ers as a backup. Yeah, teams in the East. I think the Bucks would certainly like to fill that George Hill role. I think he could fit well with the Bucks. I think that would be nice.
I think he deserves a bigger role than that. But I did think the Bucks was a possibility. But I think someone will give him a slightly bigger role. Even possibly the Pistons would bring him in, give him a nice contract if he just wants to go for money. I could see that because they're like, hey, he's basically what we wanted Killian Hayes to be. Let's just bring him in.
Yeah. Killian
Hayes is a lot bigger, but Killian Hayes fucking sucks too. So if there's any Killian Hayes fans in our comments, leave me alone because last time you guys commented, you were all wrong. Wrong.
All of them were wrong.
All of them dead wrong.
I think the Bulls would really like to have him actually. They'd love to have a guy off the bench, and Kobe White's not working out. Maybe they do a sign and trade. I think the Grizzlies would take Kobe White. Why would they not? I mean, they have everything that he lacks, so that would. Make sense.
If you could get anything when you're losing a guy like Tyus in free agency, I think that would be great. Otherwise, you wouldn't expect that. But yeah, Spurs. The Bulls would love a guy like him for sure.
Yeah, maybe he could go play with his brother. Is Trey still with the Spurs? Trey Jones?
I think so. Who I'm hoping the Spurs actually sign is Zach Levine, top free agent. Yes.
He would fit great next to DeJounte Murray. I wasn't even thinking about that. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic fit for him. He gets to kind of be the first scoring option with DeJounte Murray being the face of the team, and he gets to kind of go lay low there, or maybe a better atmosphere for his personality compared to Chicago. And he gets to play under Greg Popovich, who he's got experience with from Team USA. Yep. And I think Greg Popovich could obviously pull a lot out of him. And Popovich has experience coaching DeMar DeRozan. So I'm sure DeRozan had plenty of things to tell Levine about what it's like to be in San Antonio.
Yeah, nothing but good things for Greg. That'd be great for him. That'd be awesome. But we're doing a whole thing about Levine landing spots, so I'll move it. But Thad Young is my last guy I put. I think he's so much valuable on a lot of teams. Wolves. I put Warriors. I think he could certainly end up on the Warriors. Be that Otto. I mean, Otto Porter's more of a wing role, and he doesn't shoot. I know the Warriors like that. But Bulls. I can see him back on the Bulls. Play next to Vooch. And the Bucks. I think the Bucks would love to take him. But they're still trying to find that PJ Tucker replacement. It wasn't Serge. He's getting like no minutes. So I think Thad could definitely be that guy.
Yeah, that's great. I really want to see him get some solid minutes on a playoff team next year. I'll mention the last few players I had written down. A few guys that I think were just too good of players for you to want to talk about, but I still want to put a light on them. Gary Payton II, he's 29 years old, just fractured his elbow from a cheap hit by Dylan Brooks. But nonetheless, he's going to be a free agent. And I think the injury is not going to really affect what he can get in free agency. I think he could still get a fine contract. He's a really good defender, he proved, and he can start in key games. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes. Does Golden State offer up something to just keep him around?
I think somebody will throw in I know we've mentioned them a lot, but I think the Mavs would love to have an elite defensive guy like that. I mean, they have Dorian Finney-Smith, who's great for them, but I think he would fit well with them. Even guys like the Utah Jazz, I mean, they would love that flexibility to have a guard that can do the things Gary Payton can do. That'd be awesome. I don't see him getting more than $5 million per year. So
yeah, I was thinking maybe Houston Rockets or Utah Jazz, I think would be fantastic for sure. Maybe the Boston Celtics or the Miami Heat. But I think the Golden State Warriors should look to keep him around for sure.
Oh, yeah, he'd fit right into Heat culture. That'd be great. But for sure, the Warriors should look to keep him. I don't know if they can afford him, however. So
yeah. Bradley Beal is on a player option. Now, big question is, do the Wizards give him the 5-year, $250 million extension?
Yeah, I don't know. Bradley's probably going to stay. This guy just gives a shit about money. At this point, I'm like, whatever. I'm sick of talking about trades. I'm like, he's not moving. At this point, if he does, cool. But I'm like, whatever. We've been talking about this for like 6 years. It's not happening.
Kyrie Irving, player option. Does he get extended or no?
I don't know if he gets extended. That's tough. I don't know if I were the Nets, I don't know if I would want it. Oh, yeah, maybe they throw the extension. They're like, we're gonna figure out a trade for him.
I think it's just, it's the Kevin Durant tax. He wants Kyrie there, so you have to pay Kyrie. Now, it's unfortunate that that's the way it works, but, Kevin Durant is worth it, I guess. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that you're right. That's probably correct. They're going to have to pay all that.
I think so. And then last, but one of my favorite free agents, restricted, is DeAndre Ayton, who got spurned by the Phoenix Suns last offseason on a contract extension. He's gone out and proven that, hey, you do need me. I do deserve the max. And I think they're going to ultimately give it to him because otherwise they're going to lose him. And what's the point of that? Oh, hey, there's Nixie. Haha.
Yeah. So, yeah. They should have offered him the max. Obviously, I think he's a lot bigger part of what the Phoenix Suns are doing than they actually than people are thinking. So I think he's gonna get the money. I think they just wanted to see. They're just gonna play the market and make sure they didn't want to give him the max because they know they can get him for cheaper just by matching someone else's contract. Yeah,
they just wanted to play around with it. Mm-hmm. But I think ultimately, someone's gonna offer him a max. So it comes down to, do you want to match it or not? And of course you do. So this is a championship caliber team. I think if the Suns don't win it this year and do not win it next year, that they're not going to win it for like the next 10 or 15 years. Like, I think this or next season, they've got to cash in, because after that, Chris Paul he's not going to be really the guy that you want him to be anymore. Devin Booker, I think, is going to be great. I don't think he's going to be the guy that carries his team all the way to the finals. So it's going to be a matter of like, who do they put around these guys when you lose Chris Paul?
Yeah. Yep.
And you're going to lose guys like Cam Johnson too when they get like a new contract.
Yeah, and Jay Crowder's probably not going to be there forever. He's a solid vet for them.
But okay, yeah, let's move on. Let's talk about a video here. It is what we're creating for you guys. A Zach Levine landing spots. We just talked about him a bit in our upcoming free agents, but we're going to do a deeper dive into why we think he's a great spot into some of these locations. So my top three for Zach Levine is the Portland Trailblazers, the San Antonio Spurs, the Dallas Mavericks, and then staying at the Chicago Bulls. Those are the top 4 options, in my opinion. I think Charlotte Hornets maybe an opportunity as well on the outside, but Blazers are definitely looking for a second scoring option, and Zach Lavine's an easy one that they could bring in. He's done some pro-am ball in the Oregon area, so I think he might be he went to UCLA. I'm not sure if he has like Seattle connections, but I think that makes a lot of sense for him. San Antonio Spurs, I think, makes a ton of sense for him. They need a primary scorer, and he can go in there and get some great coaching from his Team USA coach, Greg Popovich. And then a last spot, Dallas Mavericks, I think could work out as well, as he doesn't need to be the primary ball handler, and him and Luka could really work as a great 1-2 punch.
Yeah, a lot of those, I especially like the Trailblazers. I just think of him next to Damian Lillard, and it's insane. So I'm certainly into that. That would be great for me. I did say who could put the best package for a sign and trade. I think of the Grizzlies. I think it's worth thinking about, especially in what they're seeing now without Ja, that they're not able to sustain a level of excellence in the playoffs as they were in the regular season. It wasn't a doubt, but they've shown that they need a second star without Ja.
Yeah. Would they be willing to go up Desmond Bane, or who do you think they're willing to give up?
If I got the chance to get Zach Levine, I would give up Desmond Bane. Maybe a package would take Desmond Bane. Obviously, I think Steven Adams would have to be in there for contract details, but I think they could put together enough. And I did say it. Everyone else is gonna say him, but the Lakers. I mean, he would be the number 1 scoring option at that point, and I think he would. I think with him and Anthony, I think he could make Anthony Davis and LeBron fit. But why would the Bulls take back Russell Westbrook?
They would.
I mean, I guess. If even in a sign and trade, I wouldn't want it. Be like, hey, we'll sign and trade. You can get Russ. Be like, no, just no.
Go somewhere else. I would tell Zach Levine, you can go somewhere else. We're not working out that trade.
Yeah, we don't want Russ.
We don't have to
we don't even want that contract. So I don't think that's happening at all. If it
the only way that's a possibility for him to go to Lakers is if Russell Westbrook doesn't opt into his contract. That's the only way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but Mavs would be cool. I don't know if the Mavs could put together a good enough package. I think certainly others could put a better package together. I think the Hornets and the Grizzlies are leading that patch.
Well, maybe you do a Brunson, Zach Levine type of sign and trade and add some other money in there that's necessary.
I do think, if the sign and trade had to happen, I think that would be fine. But I think Brunson would be a little redundant next to Lonzo. I forget Lonzo's on that team because it's just had to play
a lot of the year. I think they would work out fine. I think Lonzo is a great complementary player to a lot of different ball handlers.
Yeah, certainly. But Levine is certainly the biggest free agent this offseason. It's going to be crazy where he goes. We'll see. I do think I think it's 50-50, like 50% somewhere else, 50% staying with the Bulls.
Yeah, I think definitely there's a good shot he stays with the Bulls, but there's been a lot of smoke around him being not happy there and just wanting to maybe get a change of scenery. So wouldn't be surprised if that ends up being the case. I
kind of think that's more like the media running away with the story because this is going to ultimately be a very uneventful offseason. And I think they know that that's how they can push any interest, is just saying that Zach Levine might sign somewhere else, But I do think he'll just sign with the Bulls.
But yeah, that's Zach Levine. We're gonna move on. We're gonna talk top 3 players that could play next to Luka Doncic next season. Tune in next time after this commercial break. No, I'm just kidding. Your top 3, Dalton. Who are they?
So the biggest thing I went off of, obviously, I just selected stars, but their usage rating, very low usage rating, because Luka has shown he needs the ball. He deserves to have the ball. So guys with the very low usage, and I have found a few. So to start off, I'll start with the third best, and I'll end with who I think would fit best next to Luka. I think Fred VanVleet. I think he surprisingly has only a 20% usage rating. He's he's an all-star. And I think he would fit right next to Luka. He could get him more open spots, help spread the floor. He is a very good on-ball defender. He's just shorter. He's limited by his athleticism and size, but he's a very smart on-ball defender, and I think that would be really help them out. What do you think?
I think that's an interesting one. I think I'd be looking more to get him some type of big than I would another point guard.
Well, he is my third.
Yeah, but certainly I think he's a great option.
Yeah. Did you have a 3?
Yeah, I mean, I would say Terry Rozier is probably my third option. I think he'd be a great scoring threat to add to this team. You wouldn't need to put the ball in his hands a ton, but he can certainly go off on you any given night.
Oh yeah, and I think he's shown that he can be a good perimeter defender, and I think especially in Jason Kidd's system that he would fit in just fine. Terry Rozier's a good option, very good option. I think you could get him for cheap. You just have to match up contracts, and I think that wouldn't be the worst thing.
Yeah, I think if that's a possible landing spot, certainly could see it happening.
Yeah. Who'd you have as your second?
I had Zach Levine here. Definitely, we've talked about him a lot on this episode, but he is a great option to add next to Luka. Instantly, you get 24 plus points per game there, and you get some nice shooting around the perimeter, so spreads things out for Luka. I think it's a no-brainer if you get that as a possibility.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not convinced that Luka needs a 24 point per game shooter. I think if they can hang around 20, like a Tim Hardaway has shown that he excels next to Luka, and I don't think you need that next to him. You just need to fill a bunch of guys that fit well next to Luka because he's one of those players. But
sometimes you just like to go for the home run, you know?
Yeah. No, I mean, it certainly wouldn't be bad. I wouldn't complain if that happened. But my second is John Collins. He's at 18% usage rating. Lob threat. He's obviously really excels next to Trey. I don't think he likes Trey that much. I think it's hard not to like Luka. So I think it's change it up. I think that would be awesome if he could get the Collins, hypothetically speaking, if anything were to happen.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I have a two-headed horse at one, so I couldn't decide between my number one. So I guess technically my 1 and 2. But I've got DeAndre Ayton as a possibility, but he's restricted, so it's hard for that to really, for me to see that really happening. But if they can do it, I think that would be great for them on the pick and roll and the mid-range scoring game. He's prolific, so that would really help them out. If they cannot make that happen, oh my god, I just had the guys getting that face stuck. Miles Turner. Miles Turner, I think, would be a great fit for them as well. So
yeah,
I think some kind of big that can stretch the floor for them and get scoring. Maybe a Jonas Valanciunas as an outside option is a good shot for them. But I really like a big to add to this team.
Yeah, that's very interesting because Miles Turner would certainly work because especially against the Suns, I think Dwight Powell is only playing like 15 minutes a night. He's their starting center still, but they're doing their most to just put all shooters. Maxi Kleber has been their center for playing 30 minutes a game, so because he can stretch the floor and shoot. So I do think Miles Turner would fit well. He's not the most efficient shooter, but you still get a lot more defense out of Miles Turner, and I would settle for that. I would be like, all right, that's cool. But
yeah,
my first, we have talked about a lot, and it's Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert, 14% usage. He's the lowest all-star type player or borderline all-star.
He has fair. If they can get him, that would be the best option.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome, and obviously it helps their defense. I feel like he would love playing with Jason Kidd. All things considered, they're both very aggressive people.
Oof, cold.
So,
yeah, I mean, I think Rudy Gobert would make a ton of sense, obviously, and I think Luka Doncic would welcome him with open arms. They're both obviously foreign players or international players, so I think that would be, hopefully helpful in welcoming him to the squad, and it would shore up their defense. And I think Rudy Gobert would definitely fit better with Luka than he did with a guy who doesn't play make in Donovan Mitchell. So makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, and I can already see Mark Cuban now just yelling at the NBA for a tech that Rudy Gobert got. I can already see it happening. He's like, "That's totally okay." He's like, "Why can we not punch punch fans? Like they clearly don't like French people."
I just wonder, would the Jazz want to trade with the team that just eliminated them in the playoffs?
Yeah, probably not. I mean, like we've seen some of that stuff before, but I guess that was for the example I'm thinking of was Kevin Durant, but that wasn't a trade. But
yeah, that wasn't a trade.
Yeah,
the trade is a little different because the executives are thinking strategically. The players don't give a shit about that.
Yeah, maybe
they're thinking about themselves.
I mean, it would have to be Jalen Brunson in the trade and maybe a few others. It's possible. I mean, maybe if they're willing, if they're like, if you can put together the salary to take Mike Conley too, maybe. But
see, it starts getting complicated because it's like, one of the teams wants to feel like they won the trade. Like they both teams want to feel like they came out on top and that they won the trade. So they're both going to be continuously trying to fuck the other over.
For sure.
So kind of tough. I think they're more likely to go after a guy like, Miles Turner if he's available, maybe Rashawn Holmes. Maybe they dip into free agency at your guys like Zach Levine and
TJ Warren.
TJ Warren. I mean, I don't know who else is out there for like a big man that's really makes sense, but Mavericks could use anyone. It seems like every year they look after a free agency to fill some holes on their squad. But I will say this is the best looking Mavericks team we've seen in a while. Jason Kidd really brought this team together. Dorian Finney-Smith is really looking like an improved player. Maxi Kleber's got some strengths. Luka Doncic, obviously amazing, and continue to see where these guys go. I think the Mavericks are for sure going to win a championship with Luka Doncic.
You have to.
That's for sure happening.
He's going to be the face of the NBA. I mean, actually, I used to think that, but Giannis is too crazy.
Yeah,
now,
I mean,
so it's tough.
Giannis is going to be around for a long time. Yeah. I mean, him and Giannis, like, there's multiple faces to the NBA, right? Like, LeBron's still around, Steph's still around, like
Durant.
I mean, Durant, like, the face of the NBA can be different depending on who you ask.
Yeah, I think if Giannis is the LeBron, Luka will be the Durant. If you want to make direct comparisons in popularity, I think that's how it'll fall.
But then you got to remember too, there's Jason Tatum who could win a championship this year and help out his popularity a lot. Devin Booker can win a championship this year, help out his popularity a lot. Joel Embiid is still a fantastic player. I suppose he's more in like that Tim Duncan. Well, I mean, he's louder than Tim Duncan. But, yeah, I don't know. But then there's also, God, who was the other one I was gonna?
He's like a Shaq-esque type, Joel, and like personality, and I think his effect in the league is Shaq-esque.
Yeah, and then Nikola Jokic, obviously a quieter guy, but he just won back-to-back MVPs. So like at some point, you'll get a choice in the matter of being face of the league.
I think for him to be face of the league, he would have to win a championship and another MVP.
Yeah, he's got to have some more playoff success. That's kind of
and nobody cares about
the two
Denver.
MVPs helps a lot.
But granted, like what Giannis had to win 2 MVPs and then win a championship for people to give a shit about the Bucks. So
I think people gave a shit about the Bucks before. They were just like, there's always gonna be a certain crowd out there who's like, I don't care. Like, I mean, when the Bucks were in the championship, you heard Stephen A. Smith moaning and groaning about how the games weren't in LA, and it's like, at some point I just don't give a shit about people's opinions.
Yeah, you're right. But I guess I mean more like everyone's like, oh, Giannis is the best player in the NBA. He's the face. Yeah. That's what I meant. It's like, so like if Jokic did that, he'd be in the conversation if he won a championship. Sure. But I mean, so many people.
Yeah, he's still a step below Giannis for sure.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I think that about wraps it and taps it. It's episode 38. So I think we're going to end it there. Would you say that? Or was it 37?
No, I said 38.
Oh, 38. Yeah, 38's good. So we've been doing this for a good while. Make sure to subscribe to us. We are going to continue making more episodes as we watch the playoffs here and we get into the off season and, talk about everything that's good and great about the league. So yeah, I think that's about it for us, guys. We'll see you next time.
Hey guys, like and subscribe to our videos. I like talking balls. You guys like hearing about balls. Come on, just do it. Press the button.